Imagine this. You're a single dad racing to the biggest job interview of your life, the one that could change everything for you and your little girl. But then, right in front of you, a stranger drops her groceries. Do you keep running towards your future or stop and risk losing it all? What Marcus decided in that moment changed his life forever, and you won't believe who that stranger really was. Of all the days for this to happen, why today? That was the thought racing through Marcus Carter's mind as he glanced at the time on his phone. He had exactly 45 minutes to make it to the most important job interview of his life, a position that could change everything, not just for him, but for his little daughter, Layla. Marcus was a single father, raising 6-year-old Layla alone ever since her mother walked out 2 years ago. He remembered the night clearly. His wife left without warning, without a goodbye, leaving behind a little girl who cried herself to sleep for weeks, and a man who had no choice but to become both mother and father. Every morning before school, Layla would look up at him with her wide, innocent eyes and ask, "Daddy, when will things get better?" Marcus always forced a smile, hugged her tight, and whispered, "Soon, baby girl, real soon." Today was supposed to be that day. The job opening was at a prestigious firm, an opportunity that came once in a lifetime. The salary was more than enough to pay off his debts, move out of their cramped one-bedroom apartment, and give Layla the safe neighborhood and good school she deserved. He wore his only suit, a dark one that didn't quite fit his tall frame anymore. He had borrowed money to get it dry cleaned, hoping to look professional. In his hand, he carried a folder with his resume, reviewed and polished at least a dozen times. He had rehearsed answers to possible questions, imagined shaking the interviewer's hand, imagined walking home with good news for Layla. But fate had other plans. As Marcus hurried down the crowded sidewalk toward the train station, weaving between people, he spotted an elderly woman struggling with heavy grocery bags. She was small, hunched over, her steps shaky. Suddenly, one of her bags slipped from her arms. Apples spilled everywhere, rolling across the pavement. People walked by, barely glancing at her. Some even stepped over the apples without a thought. Marcus froze, his heart thudded. Every second counted. If he stopped, he might miss the interview, the very thing that could change his life. But if he walked away, how could he explain that to himself? To Layla? He sighed heavily, dropped to his knees, and began gathering the apples. "Here, ma'am. Let me help you." The old woman blinked in surprise. "Oh, thank you, young man. I didn't think anyone would stop." "No problem," Marcus said with a smile, even though his chest tightened at the time slipping away. He helped her repack the groceries, then lifted the heavy bags into his arms. "Which way are you headed?" he asked. She pointed shakily. "3 blocks down. My apartment's right on the corner." Marcus nodded. "Let's get you there, safely." They walked slowly, Marcus matching her pace even as his phone buzzed again. Time was running out, but he forced himself to stay calm. The woman kept glancing at him curiously. "You seem in a hurry," she said softly. "Did I make you late for something important?" Marcus hesitated, then gave a small laugh. "Yeah, I had a big job interview. The kind of chance I've been waiting for. But it's fine. You needed help." The woman studied him closely, her wrinkled face thoughtful. Most people today wouldn't stop, especially if something big was waiting for them. Marcus shrugged. "I try to do what's right. My daughter's watching me, you know. She deserves a father she can look up to." The woman smiled warmly. "What's your name, son? Marcus? Marcus Carter?" She extended her hand. "I'm Evelyn. Evelyn Grant." Marcus shook it politely, unaware of the weight that name carried. To him, she was just a kind stranger he was helping. When they reached her building, Marcus carried the bags up to her door. She thanked him over and over, her eyes lingering on him like she saw something others often overlooked. By the time Marcus left, he knew he was too late. The interview had already started. His dream opportunity was gone. That night, Marcus sat on the edge of his worn-out couch, staring at the floor. Layla colored in her notebook nearby. She looked up at him with concern. "How did the interview go, Daddy?" she asked softly. Marcus forced a smile. "Didn't make it, baby girl, but that's okay. Something else will come along." Inside, though, his heart ached. He had worked so hard, and it felt like everything slipped away in a moment. Just as he was lost in thought, there was a knock at the door. Marcus frowned and opened it, only to freeze in shock. Standing there was Evelyn. But this time, she wasn't in her simple clothes. She wore a sharp, elegant suit, her hair neatly styled, and outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. Evelyn? Marcus stammered. How did you find me? She chuckled. You gave me your full name, remember? It wasn't too hard. Marcus still looked confused. Why are you here? Evelyn stepped inside, glancing around his modest apartment before turning back to him. Marcus, I wasn't completely honest earlier. I'm Evelyn Grant, the CEO of Grant Enterprises, the very company you were heading to for your interview. Marcus's mouth fell open. You're that Evelyn Grant? She nodded, smiling gently. Yes, and today I saw something I've been searching for in my company. Not just skills, but character, integrity, heart. You gave up your chance to help me, a stranger. That's the kind of man I want working for me. Marcus felt dizzy. Are you saying, I'm offering you a job, Evelyn said firmly, not just the one you applied for, a higher role, one with room to grow, full benefits, and a salary that will give you and your daughter the life you deserve? Tears stung Marcus's eyes. He thought of all the nights worrying about bills, the days skipping meals so Layla could eat, the prayers whispered in silence. Thank you, he whispered, voice trembling. You have no idea what this means to us. At that moment, Layla peeked shyly from behind the couch. Evelyn bent down, smiling. And you must be Layla. Hi, sweetheart. Your daddy is an extraordinary man. Layla giggled and hugged Marcus tight. I know, he's the best. The next week, Marcus started his new job. For the first time in years, he felt hope. He dropped Layla at school each morning with a smile, knowing their lives were finally turning around. Evelyn often checked in, guiding him, mentoring him. She knew she had made the right choice. One night, Layla asked him, Daddy, why did that lady help us? Marcus thought for a moment and said, because when you choose kindness, even if it costs you something, life has a way of bringing it back to you, sometimes in ways you never expect. Layla smiled sleepily. So kindness is magic? Marcus kissed her forehead. The strongest magic of all. And for the first time, he truly believed things were only going to get better. The woman looked up at him, her frail hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the bag's clutch to her chest. Her eyes widened in surprise at the sight of Marcus kneeling to gather her fallen apples. Thank you, young man, she said softly, her voice quivering with both age and emotion. Everyone else just kept walking. I thought I was invisible. Marcus gave her a reassuring smile as he picked up the last apple and placed it back in the torn bag. Don't mention it. It's no trouble at all. Let me carry these for you. Those bags look heavy. The woman tried to protest, shaking her head. Oh no, I couldn't ask you to do that. You must have somewhere important to be. Marcus adjusted the strap of his folder under his arm and lifted the bags from her hands with ease. I do, but it can wait. You shouldn't be out here struggling with all this by yourself. Let's get you home safely. She blinked at him, startled by his firmness. Well, if you insist, she finally said, falling into step beside him. The two of them began walking down the sidewalk together slowly, Marcus adjusting his long strides to match her short, careful steps. Every block felt like an eternity to him. His phone buzzed in his pocket once, twice, then again, and each vibration made his chest tighten. He didn't need to look to know what it was. It was the reminder about his interview, the one he had been preparing for all week. By the time they reached her apartment building, a modest brick structure with peeling paint and creaking stairs, Marcus could feel the weight of lost time pressing down on him. He helped her up the steps, carried the groceries inside, and placed them gently on the kitchen counter. As he straightened up, his phone buzzed again. He finally glanced at it and his stomach dropped. He was already late. Too late. The interview was slipping through his fingers like sand. His heart sank, and he tried to keep his face neutral, but disappointment washed over him like a wave. The woman noticed instantly. Her sharp, weathered eyes studied his expression with uncanny accuracy. You seem in a hurry, she said slowly. Did I make you late for something important? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it again, then sighed. He had promised himself to always be honest, especially when it came to moments like this. Yeah, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I had a big job interview today. Probably my only real shot in a long while, but it's fine. Some things are more important. The woman tilted her head, clearly surprised by his honesty. You gave up an opportunity like that? For me? Marcus shrugged, trying to keep his frustration from showing. He didn't want to sound bitter, though inside he felt like his chest was caving in. I try to do what's right. My daughter's watching me, you know? Kids. They see everything, and she deserves a father she can look up to. For a moment, silence filled the small kitchen. The woman's gaze softened and her lips curved into a warm smile. You're a rare one, she said at last. Most people wouldn't sacrifice something like that for a stranger. The world is so fast now. People care more about their schedules than each other. But you stopped. Marcus shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. Compliments always made him uneasy, especially when all he could think about was the rent bill taped to his fridge and Layla's hopeful face waiting for good news. I just did what anyone should do, he said. No, she said, firmly shaking her head. Not anyone. Not anymore. Marcus let out a small breath, trying to move the conversation along. Well, at least you're home safe now. That's what matters. She studied him again, her sharp eyes narrowing slightly as though she were trying to read beyond his words. After a long pause, she asked softly, What's your name? Marcus, he said, shifting the grocery bag one last time onto the counter. Marcus Carter. Her lips twitched into a knowing smile as she extended her hand. I'm Evelyn. Evelyn Grant. Marcus reached out and shook her hand politely. Nice to meet you, Evelyn. To him, she was just another elderly woman he had helped. Someone grateful but ordinary, living a quiet life in a weathered apartment building. He had no idea who she truly was, no clue of the power behind the name she had just given him. He had no reason to suspect that the woman whose groceries he carried, whose apples he had picked up off the street, was a millionaire, the head of a company so large its name appeared in financial magazines and city skyscrapers. To Marcus, she was simply Evelyn. And at that moment, all he could think about was how to explain to his daughter why her daddy's big chance had slipped away. Evelyn, however, looked at Marcus with a spark of recognition. She had seen many people in her long career, ambitious men and women who would trample over anyone to get ahead. But kindness? Integrity? That was something she rarely saw anymore. And here it was, standing right in her kitchen, holding a worn resume folder under his arm, completely unaware of how his small act of compassion was about to change his life forever. Later that evening, Marcus sat on the edge of his worn-out couch, his shoulders slumped, his head buried in his hands. The dim light from a single lamp flickered against the peeling wallpaper. Across the room, Layla sat on the floor with her crayons, coloring carefully in her notebook. Every so often, she looked up at her father, sensing the heaviness in the air. She set her crayon down and tilted her head. How did the interview go, Daddy? She asked softly, her voice carrying a mix of hope and worry. Marcus straightened, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Didn't make it, baby girl, he admitted gently, but that's okay. Something else will come along. Layla frowned. But you said this one was important. He swallowed hard, his chest tightening. It was, sweetheart. But sometimes things don't go the way we plan. He reached out, ruffling her curl while trying to reassure her. Don't you worry about it. Daddy's got us. But when he leaned back, the weight of reality pressed down harder than ever. Bills were piled high on the kitchen counter, waiting to be paid. The rent was already overdue. The fridge, when he opened it earlier, was nearly empty. He had skipped lunch again, so Layla wouldn't notice. But she was sharp. She always noticed more than she let on. Marcus clenched his fists. He hated this feeling. He hated the look in his daughter's eyes when she tried to be brave for him. He hated the fear gnawing at him that he might not be enough. Just as he was lost in those dark thoughts, a knock echoed through the apartment. 3 sharp raps against the door. Marcus frowned, surprised. He wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door cautiously and froze. Standing there was Evelyn. But this time, she looked nothing like the frail woman with grocery bags he had helped earlier. She was dressed in a sleek, tailored designer outfit, her posture tall and commanding. Her silver hair, once tucked under a simple scarf, now shimmered under the hallway light. Parked at the curb behind her was a black luxury sedan, polished and gleaming. Marcus blinked, stunned. Evelyn, how did you find me? She smiled knowingly, her eyes glinting. You gave me your full name, remember? It wasn't hard. He stepped aside, still in shock, as she walked into his small, modest apartment. She paused briefly, glancing around at the worn furniture, the toys scattered on the floor, the stack of bills on the counter. Her expression softened, and she looked back at Marcus. I imagine you're wondering why I'm here, she said. That would be nice, Marcus muttered under his breath, still confused. Evelyn chuckled. Marcus, I wasn't entirely honest with you earlier. She folded her hands calmly. I'm not just Evelyn, the woman struggling with groceries. I'm Evelyn Grant, CEO of Grant Enterprises, a company worth billions, and, as fate would have it, the very same firm you were rushing to for your interview. Marcus's jaw dropped, his eyes widened, disbelief washing over him. He shook his head slightly, as though trying to snap out of a dream. You? You're the Evelyn Grant? She nodded, her gaze steady and warm. That's right. Marcus staggered back a step, running a hand over his face. I don't understand. Why would someone like you be out there like that? Carrying groceries, dressed so simply. I thought... He stopped himself, realizing how foolish he must sound. Evelyn laughed lightly. Sometimes I like to remind myself what life feels like outside the walls of a boardroom. Money doesn't exempt me from being human. And today, I happen to need help. Her smile deepened. And you, out of everyone on that street, you chose to stop. Marcus's mind raced. The job, the missed interview, the crushing disappointment. And now this? It was almost too much to take in. So, what are you saying? Evelyn stepped closer, her voice softening. I've been searching for someone like you, Marcus. Not just someone with a degree or a polished resume. Those I can find anywhere. What I can't find so easily is someone with integrity. Someone who chooses compassion over ambition, who values people over profit. Today, I found him. Marcus swallowed hard, his throat tight. But I missed the interview. I let you down before I even had a chance. You didn't let me down, Evelyn replied firmly. You showed me exactly who you are. And that told me more than any interview could. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find words. For years, he had been overlooked, underestimated, treated as though he was invisible. He worked long hours and dead-end jobs, always told he wasn't the right fit, never given the chance to prove himself. And now, here was a woman, the woman, telling him he was enough. Tears pricked his eyes, but he blinked them back. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Evelyn said with a smile. Just listen. I'm offering you a position, not the one you applied for, but something better. A managerial role with room to grow, full benefits, a salary that will give you and Layla the stability you deserve. At the mention of his daughter, Marcus's chest tightened again, but this time with overwhelming gratitude instead of fear. Layla had wandered over by now, peeking curiously from behind the couch. Evelyn turned her attention to her and bent down with a gentle smile. And you must be Layla, she said kindly. Hi, sweetheart. I've heard about you. Layla glanced at her father before stepping closer. Who are you? She asked shyly. Evelyn chuckled. Just a friend of your daddy's, and I think he's one of the most extraordinary men I've ever met. Layla beamed and ran straight into Marcus's arms, hugging him tightly. I already knew that, she said proudly. Marcus held her close, his vision blurring with tears he could no longer fight back. For the first time in a long time, he felt the crushing weight of worry lift from his shoulders. For the first time, he truly believed things might turn around. Evelyn watched them with a soft smile. She had made countless business decisions in her life, some worth millions, others shaping entire industries. But standing in that tiny apartment, watching a father cling to his daughter, with hope in his eyes, she knew this was one of the best decisions she had ever made. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. His mouth opened, but no words came out at first. His mind raced, trying to make sense of Evelyn's offer. Wait, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. You're saying... Evelyn smiled warmly, her eyes filled with certainty. I want to hire you directly, Marcus. Not for the position you applied for, but for something better. A managerial role with room to grow a salary that will take care of you and Layla, and full benefits, a future you can build on. For a moment, Marcus just stared at her, his heart hammering in his chest. His knees felt weak, and he had to grip the arm of the couch to steady himself. I, I don't know what to say, he admitted, his voice shaking. I don't deserve this. Evelyn stepped closer, her expression firm but kind. You deserve every bit of it. Most people today would have walked past me without a second thought. But you sacrificed your own opportunity for a stranger. That's the kind of character I look for. That's the kind of person I want leading my teams. Someone who understands that people matter more than profits. Her words hit Marcus like a tidal wave. All at once, the memories came rushing back. Nights spent staring at overdue bills, wondering how long he could stretch a single paycheck. The times he went hungry so Layla could eat. The endless prayers whispered in the dark when she was asleep, prayers that things would somehow, someday, get better. Tears welled in his eyes before he could stop them. He covered his mouth with his hand, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." At that moment, a soft voice interrupted the heavy silence. "Daddy?" Marcus turned to see Layla peeking from behind the couch, clutching her little stuffed bunny. Her big brown eyes were wide with curiosity as she looked from her father to the elegant woman standing in their living room. "Daddy, who's that?" Evelyn's face lit up with a gentle smile. She crouched down to the little girl's level. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm a friend of your daddy's, and I think he's the most amazing man I've met in a very long time." Layla giggled shyly, half hiding behind her bunny before running straight into her father's arms. Marcus scooped her up, holding her tight against his chest, kissing the top of her head. His eyes closed as he silently promised her, right there in that moment, that their future would be brighter. "You hear that, Layla?" he said softly, his voice breaking with emotion. "Someone thinks Daddy's pretty amazing." "I already knew that," Layla said proudly, resting her little head on his shoulder. Evelyn smiled at the sight, her heart warming. She had met countless professionals, people who wore suits and spoke smooth words in boardrooms. But none of them had moved her the way this father and daughter did. She saw something rare in Marcus, a strength built not from power or wealth, but from love, sacrifice, and resilience. Marcus looked back at Evelyn, still overwhelmed. "I don't know how to thank you. You've given me something I thought I'd lost, a chance, a real chance." Evelyn shook her head. "You don't owe me thanks, Marcus. Just keep being the man your daughter already believes you are. That's more than enough." His throat tightened again. He thought of all the times Layla had asked him when things would get better, of the countless reassurances he gave her, even when he didn't believe them himself. Now, for the first time, he felt those words might finally be true. Evelyn straightened, her tone taking on the crispness of a leader but still carrying warmth. "I'll have my assistant send over the paperwork tomorrow. We'll get you started as soon as you're ready. This isn't charity, Marcus. It's recognition. You've earned this." Marcus nodded slowly, still holding Layla close. "I won't let you down. I know you won't," Evelyn replied with certainty. She glanced at Layla again and winked. "He's going to do great things. You'll see." Layla grinned, clapping her small hands together. "Yay, Daddy! Does this mean we can get pizza tonight?" Marcus laughed through his tears, shaking his head. "Maybe, baby girl. Maybe." The three of them shared a quiet moment of laughter, the heavy air in the small apartment lifting, replaced by something Marcus hadn't felt in a long time: hope. As Evelyn turned to leave, she placed a hand gently on Marcus's shoulder. "Remember, this is only the beginning. You've got the heart of a leader, Marcus. The world needs more of that." When the door closed behind her, Marcus sank back onto the couch with Layla still in his arms. He buried his face in her curls, whispering softly, "It's going to be okay now. Daddy kept his promise. Things are finally going to get better." Layla squeezed him tightly, her little voice muffled against his shirt. "I knew they would." For the first time in years, Marcus believed it too. The very next week, Marcus walked through the towering glass doors of Grant Enterprises for his very first day. His palms were sweaty and his heart thudded in his chest. But for the first time in years, that thud wasn't from fear. It was from excitement. He wore the same suit he had almost interviewed in, but this time it didn't feel old or out of place. It felt like a symbol, a reminder of the journey that had brought him here. As he stepped into the sleek, buzzing lobby, he whispered to himself, "This is it. This is the start of something new." That morning, after dropping Layla off at school, he had kissed her on the cheek and said, "Daddy's gonna work today, baby girl. Real work. The kind that makes our dreams possible." Layla had hugged him tight, her little arms squeezing with all her might. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Those words echoed in his heart as he rode the elevator up to his new office. Grant Enterprises was bigger and brighter than anywhere Marcus had ever worked. The walls gleamed, employees moved with confidence, and every meeting room seemed like it belonged in a movie. For a moment, he felt like an imposter, but then he remembered Evelyn's words. "You've earned this." Evelyn made sure to check in on him often, not just as his boss, but as his mentor. She would stop by his desk with a smile and ask, "How are you settling in, Marcus?" And when he admitted he sometimes felt out of his depth, she would reassure him, "Great leaders aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones who never stop learning. You've got what matters most already, the heart." Marcus took her advice to heart. He listened, he asked questions, and he treated every colleague, whether they were a janitor, receptionist, or senior executive, with respect. Slowly, people began to notice his sincerity, his work ethic, and the way he carried himself. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving, he was growing. At home, the changes were even more profound. Their fridge was full, the bills were caught up, and Marcus had even started a small savings account for Layla's future. He moved them into a safer neighborhood where Layla could ride her bike on the sidewalk without him constantly worrying. Every morning, he walked her to school with a smile, no longer weighed down by the heavy cloud of uncertainty. One evening, after a particularly long day, Marcus returned home, exhausted but fulfilled. He tucked Layla into bed, brushing a strand of curly hair from her forehead. She looked up at him with her big brown eyes and asked softly, "Daddy, why did that lady help us? She didn't even know us." The question made Marcus pause. He sat on the edge of her bed, thinking carefully. Then he smiled, his voice steady and gentle. "Because, baby girl, when you do the right thing, even when it costs you something, the universe has a way of bringing it back to you. Sometimes in ways you'd never expect." Layla blinked, her face lighting up with childlike wonder. "So being kind is like magic?" Marcus chuckled, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Exactly. The most powerful magic of all." Layla snuggled deeper under her blanket, her stuffed bunny tucked close. "Then I'm going to be kind every day, Daddy. I want magic too." His heart swelled with pride as he whispered, "That's my girl." As he turned off the light and closed her door, Marcus leaned against the hallway wall for a moment, overcome with emotion. He thought back to the day it all changed, the day he chose to help Evelyn with her groceries, not knowing who she was, not knowing it would alter his entire life. At the time, it had felt like he had lost everything. But now he realized that he had gained far more than he ever could have dreamed. He had gained a mentor. He had gained stability. Most importantly, he had gained the chance to show Layla, not just tell her, that kindness matters, that doing the right thing, even when it hurts, always leads to something greater. From that night forward, Marcus no longer just hoped things would get better. He believed it with every fiber of his being. And every time he walked into Grant Enterprises, every time Evelyn gave him a nod of encouragement, every time Layla hugged him after school and asked about his day, he knew he was living proof of his own lesson. Things had gotten better because he had chosen kindness, and kindness, in return, had chosen him back. Marcus had been at Grant Enterprises for 3 months when the real test of his leadership arrived. Up until then, everything had felt like a dream. He came to work each day eager to learn, eager to contribute. Evelyn often praised his progress, and his colleagues respected the way he treated everyone equally, whether they were interns or executives. But now a storm was brewing. One Thursday afternoon, Marcus was called into a conference room. Inside, a group of executives sat around a glossy oak table, tension heavy in the air. Evelyn sat at the head, her expression calm but serious. "Marcus," she said, gesturing for him to sit, "we have a situation." He sat down, heart pounding. Evelyn continued, "One of our most important contracts is at risk. The client feels we've failed to meet expectations. If we lose them, it could mean millions in losses and a major blow to our reputation." Marcus swallowed hard. What do you need me to do? Evelyn looked directly at him. I want you to lead the recovery effort. His stomach dropped. Me? But I've only been here a few months. Surely there are others more experienced. Evelyn raised her hand, silencing his doubts. I chose you because I believe in you. You have the integrity and heart this situation needs. This client isn't just upset about numbers. They feel unheard. They feel disrespected. You know how to listen, Marcus. You know how to make people feel valued. That's what's going to save this deal. The room fell silent. Marcus could feel the eyes of the executives on him, some skeptical, others curious. He wanted to shrink under the weight of it all. But then he remembered Layla. He remembered her small voice asking, Daddy, when will things get better? And he realized this was his chance to prove, not just to Evelyn, not just to the company, but to himself, that he belonged here. I'll do it, he said firmly. The next 2 weeks tested Marcus more than anything he had ever faced. He spent hours poring over the client's concerns, meeting with their representatives, listening more than he spoke. He resisted the urge to defend the company, focusing instead on understanding. When the client vented their frustrations, Marcus didn't argue. He nodded, took notes, and said, I hear you, and we're going to make this right. Slowly, the client's tone shifted. The anger softened. They began to see Marcus not as another corporate face, but as a human being who genuinely cared. He worked with his team at Grant Enterprises to rebuild trust, revising strategies, adjusting deadlines, and ensuring the client felt prioritized every step of the way. One late evening, after yet another marathon meeting, Evelyn found Marcus still at his desk, scribbling notes. She placed a cup of coffee in front of him and smiled. You remind me of myself, she said. Marcus looked up, surprised. Really? I doubt that. You're a billionaire CEO. Don't finish that sentence, Evelyn interrupted gently. You're not just anything. You're exactly where you need to be. And you're proving why I trusted you with this. Her words fueled him through the final stretch. By the end of the month, the client not only renewed their contract, but extended it, praising the company for addressing their concerns so thoroughly. At the next executive meeting, Evelyn announced the news with a proud smile. Thanks to Marcus Carter's leadership, we've not only salvaged the relationship, but strengthened it. Applause filled the room. Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. For the first time in his professional life, he wasn't invisible. He wasn't just surviving paycheck to paycheck, he was thriving. That night, as he tucked Layla into bed, she hugged him tight and whispered, I knew you could do it, Daddy. And for the first time, Marcus truly believed it too. A year later, Marcus Carter was no longer the nervous newcomer at Grant Enterprises. He had earned respect, promotions, and a reputation for being the kind of leader who put people first. But more importantly, he had gained something far more valuable than titles or money, a renewed sense of purpose. With his new stability, Marcus began thinking about the people he had once stood among, the struggling single parents, the families living paycheck to paycheck, the ones who felt invisible. He remembered the hunger, the overdue bills, the fear of not knowing how to provide. He knew he couldn't forget those experiences. He had to use them. One Saturday morning, Marcus took Layla to a local community center. Together, they carried boxes filled with groceries and school supplies. Layla's eyes widened as she saw families lining up, parents holding their children's hands, much like she once held her father's when things were hard. Daddy, what's all this for? She asked. Marcus knelt beside her. This is for families who are where we used to be. We're going to help them the way someone helped us. They spent the day handing out food, backpacks, and clothing. Marcus listened to parents tell their stories that sounded painfully familiar. And each time he told them, I know it feels impossible right now, but things can change. Don't give up. Word of Marcus's efforts reached Evelyn. At the next company event, she pulled him aside and said, I'm proud of you, Marcus. Success means nothing if you don't lift others with you. You're doing exactly what a true leader should. Her praise humbled him, but what moved him most was Layla's reaction. That night, she told him, Daddy, I wanted to help people too when I grow up, just like you. Marcus's throat tightened. He kissed her forehead and whispered, That's the best thing you could ever do. The years continued, and Marcus's influence only grew. He rose through the ranks at Grant Enterprises, always remembered for the day he chose kindness over ambition. His story spread, inspiring others to act with compassion, to believe that integrity mattered even in business. But at home, he remained the same Marcus. The father who read Layla bedtime stories, who cheered at her school plays, who never forgot that every choice he made was shaping the kind of person she would become. And one night, years later, as he watched Layla sleep, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey. He thought of the apples rolling on the sidewalk, of the choice that seemed so small but had changed everything. He realized then that life's biggest opportunities often come disguised as inconveniences, that a single act of kindness had rewritten his destiny. With a smile, Marcus whispered into the quiet room, "Things did get better, baby girl. Better than we ever dreamed." And they truly had. Marcus was finally finding his rhythm in life. Work was steady, bills were paid on time, and weekends were filled with laughter and simple joys with Layla. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the heavy weight of fear on his shoulders, but then life threw him another test. It began one Monday morning. Marcus went to wake Layla for school, but she didn't bounce out of bed the way she usually did. She lay there, pale and weak, her small forehead burning with fever. "Daddy, I don't feel good," she whispered. Panic shot through him. He called in sick to work and rushed her to the doctor. After a series of tests, the doctor explained that it was a severe infection. Layla needed close monitoring and medication. Though the doctor assured him it wasn't life-threatening, Marcus's heart still clenched with fear. Memories of his struggles before flooded back. Nights he couldn't afford medicine. Times when he felt helpless. But this time, things were different. He had health insurance now. He had resources. Still, he couldn't shake the worry. For the next week, Marcus barely left Layla's side. He worked from home as much as possible, sitting by her bed with his laptop, checking in with his team, all while keeping a cool cloth on her forehead. At night, when she coughed in her sleep, he held her hand until she drifted back into slumber. Evelyn called to check in. "Marcus, your place is with your daughter right now," she said firmly. "We've got things handled at the office. Don't you dare apologize, Sigma, for being a father." Her words brought him comfort. He realized then that leadership wasn't just about deadlines and contracts. It was about values, about the kind of life you modeled. If he could inspire his team to care for one another the way he cared for Layla, then he was succeeding. After 10 long days, Layla's fever finally broke. She sat up in bed one morning and said, "Daddy, can we go outside? I miss the sun." Tears of relief stung his eyes. "Of course, baby girl." They spent that afternoon in the park, the sunlight warm on their faces. Layla laughed as she chased butterflies, her strength returning with each step. Marcus sat on the bench, watching her, feeling gratitude wash over him. He realized that every challenge he faced, every setback, every trial, was preparing him for moments like this, to be strong for the person who depended on him most. Later that night, Layla hugged him tight and whispered, "Thank you for never leaving me, Daddy." Marcus kissed her hair and said softly, "Never, not in a million years." And in that moment, he understood. Success wasn't just about promotions or money. It was about being present for the people who mattered most. Years passed, and Layla grew into a bright, confident young woman. She excelled in school, her determination fueled by the example her father had set. Marcus often sat in the audience at her recitals and science fairs, clapping louder than anyone, tears of pride in his eyes. One evening, when Layla was 15, she sat across from Marcus at the dinner table and asked, "Daddy, can I tell you something?" "Of course, baby girl, you can tell me anything." She hesitated, then smiled. "I want to be like you when I grow up. Not just a worker, not just successful. I want to help people the way you do. I want to make a difference." Marcus's chest swelled with emotion. "You already are," he said. "You have a heart bigger than this whole world." Time seemed to move faster after that. Layla graduated high school with honors and earned a scholarship to a top university. Marcus drove her to campus on move-in day, trying to hide the lump in his throat as he carried her boxes up to her dorm. "Daddy," she said, giving him a tearful smile. "Don't worry, I'll be fine. You taught me how to be strong." Marcus hugged her tightly, whispering, "You'll always be my little girl. But I know you're ready for the world." The apartment felt quiet after she left. But Marcus filled his time with work and community service. He launched a mentorship program at Grant Enterprises for young people from underprivileged backgrounds, teaching them not just business skills, but life skills, resilience, kindness, and integrity. Many of his mentees reminded him of himself years ago, struggling, scared, but full of potential. One evening, Evelyn attended one of Marcus's mentorship events. She pulled him aside, her eyes shining with pride. "Do you see what you've built, Marcus? You're changing lives. Not just your daughters, but so many others. That's legacy." Marcus thought about that word, legacy. He realized it wasn't about wealth or titles. It was about the seeds you planted in others, the kindness that continued long after you were gone. Years later, when Layla graduated college, Marcus sat in the front row, clapping until his hands hurt. She gave a speech about perseverance and kindness, crediting her father for teaching her that true strength came from compassion. As she stood on stage, glowing with confidence, Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. In that moment, he knew every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tough choice had been worth it. After the ceremony, Layla hugged him and whispered, "We did it, Daddy." And Marcus, holding her close, whispered back, "No, baby girl, you did it." And I couldn't be prouder. As the sun set that evening, Marcus looked up at the sky, remembering the long journey from that day on the sidewalk with the spilled apples. He thought about how a single choice, to stop and help, had set everything into motion. And with a quiet smile, he realized the truth. Kindness doesn't just change moments, it changes destinies. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring ones like it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that touch hearts and change lives. Thank you for watching.